11:05 a.m. on Monday, September 17th, calling the roll for the Board of Control meeting. Nan Baker. Here. Joe Nani serving as an alternate for Dale Miller.
Here.
Mike King serving as an alternate for Dan Brady.
Here.
Mike Dever. Here. Armin Budish.
Here.
Lenora Lockett. Here. And Dennis Kennedy.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Minutes from September 4th. Any changes? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Dever. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Any public comment?
No public comment at this time.
Okay. Any tabled items?
And no tabled items.
Okay. Let's start.
First item is item BC 2018-612, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with Johnson Controls Security Systems, LLC, for preventative fire alarm / security system maintenance services, and is for the Justice Center complex, including Court Towers, Jail 1, and Galleria, located at 1200 Ontario Street in Cleveland, and it's for the period October 1st, 2016 through September 30th, 2019, to expand the scope of services effective September 17th, 2018, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $428,248.
Mike Chambers of Public Works, we're asking for approval of this item. Basically, the additional scope of services is, the addition of the police headquarters building. In addition, we're adding in additional HVAC services that we used to process through departmental orders and factory authorized. We're bringing all that into one contract. The good news is, in doing so, we are now getting an additional 7 to 10% savings. We're getting national pricing savings. Basically, it's similar to state term that we weren't getting beforehand. So that's being rolled into this as well.
Any questions? Councilwoman Baker.
Yes, in your detailed notes, you were saying that there would be a reevaluation of the complex for the next contract. Is there anything that you're doing now that you would have to redo because you're doing $400,000 worth of work that maybe you would have included in the next contract?
Basically, in all honesty, there's a very limited number of people to handle this thing. A lot of this is proprietary to begin with. The biggest thing we had is we were doing a lot of things through departmental orders and factory authorized that we're bringing in under. On top of that, we got that pricing agreement. I think as time comes and we get through the police headquarters building, seeing what's going on, in all honesty, we go out to bid. They probably will be the only bidders again. But I do now have a pricing agreement that I can at least refer to make sure we're getting a fair price. So over time, I don't know unless anyone else comes in. That's not the greatest answer.
I guess I'm just asking if you think that there's anything that we would be doing now that we may have to do again if another contractor came in and said, oh, no.
I think what we're doing now, we have a good handle on the fire, and what we're adding into it now is the HVAC, which in all honesty, we were going with factory authorized because they were the factory authorized dealer. The biggest savings there is now I'm getting better pricing. Unless someone else becomes an authorized dealer, for the systems we have, that would be the only other opportunity. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, BC 2018-613, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with Quality Control Services, LLC, for construction management and support services. And it's for the period September 13th, 2016 through September 12th, 2019, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $100,000.
Hi, Nicole English with Public Works. We're asking for a contract amendment to add money and then extend the period until the end of next year. We use Quality Control Services to supplement our construction staff for specialized projects and construction. This one is mainly needing to be used for the Highland Road Bridge projects, which they've started work on for us, and the project's been extended due to some environmental issues, and so we'd like to keep them on to do schedule support and some more complicated construction support.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Dever. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, BC 2018-614, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment subsidiary number 2 to a contract with Mark Haynes Construction, Inc. for construction of the towpath trail Stage 3 from Steelyard Commons to Literary Road in the city of Cleveland for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $25,955.18.
Nicole English again with Public Works. This is the second amendment for the towpath project. The main reason for this is they found worse conditions underground on West 11th than they initially thought, so it's additional base repair, subgrade, and pavement work that they have to do. It's mainly federally funded, and the city of Cleveland pays the majority of the local share.
Thank you. Questions? Yes.
Nicole,
Mr. King.
what's the expected completion date of this project? You know,
This one should be by the end of this year.
end of the year. Okay. Thank you.
Further questions? Councilwoman Baker.
Where is the 25,000 coming from, did you say? Federal?
In city of Cleveland, the county has a small portion because of a bridge abandonment on the project. I'm not sure if this 2% is exactly what's coming out of this, because they'll figure it once they put it back in the contract on the items themselves. But the city of Cleveland, through the TIF on the Steelyard Commons, is what pays the local share.
Of the 25,955 that you're asking?
Correct.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Nani. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item is a two-part item, BC 2018-615, Department of Information Technology. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 43505, which will result in an award recommendation to Mainsail LLC in the amount not to exceed $450,000 for technical professional services in connection with the implementation of the Enterprise Resource Planning System. And it's for the period September 17th, 2018 through September 16th, 2019. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Janelle Green, Department of IT. This contract with Mainsail allows us to secure contractors to perform necessary technical work for the ERP program. So we have worked with Mainsail in the past with the N4 contract. This particular vendor was a part of the small business requirement, and they fulfilled some of the that portion for that contract. So we opted to utilize their services because they already have the knowledge base, and it would be too problematic to transfer the knowledge onto new people and try to get them up to speed. This contract also does allow us to vet individual contractors. So if we're not satisfied with that particular contractor, we can roll them off, and then we can get resumes and talk to new contractors to perform the task if so necessary. And is also coming in at a cheaper price than the N4 contract was.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Dever. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is a two-part item, item BC 2018-616, Fiscal Office. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 43542, which will result in an award recommendation to Legal News Publishing in the amount not to exceed $13,700 for typesetting and printing services for legal advertisement of delinquent land and manufactured home tax notices. And it's for the two periods, September 27, 2018 and October 11th, 2018. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Lisa Rocco, Fiscal Office. So ORC 5721.03 requires the Fiscal Office to publish the delinquent list 60 days after receiving the certification from the treasurer. We did attempt to work through the procurement system and get this through. Unfortunately, the delinquency came in somewhat higher than last year. Last year was 18, this year was 33,000. So therefore we had to start over. And so we went out to receive quotes because again, the ORC also requires us to put it in a paper of general circulation within the county. So we called the Cleveland Plain Dealer and the Daily Legal News, asked them for quotes to publish. We went with the Daily Legal News because it was came in at the lesser amount. And the delinquent notice will be published in 2 consecutive well, 2 times in the paper, September 27th and October 11th. So that's why we're asking for an exemption and then approval to print.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. King?
Thanks, Lisa. In terms of the notice here, I mean, I know there are certain areas in terms of publication in a newspaper of general circulation that the state law has changed to allow for electronic notice of some kind. Do you know if that's been explored here at all, or if there's been any activity down at the State House on that?
There has not.
Okay.
This has not been amended since 2014, so.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Nani. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2018-6617, Department of Consumer Affairs, submitting an amendment to a contract with Nover Eaglestein and Associates, Inc. for support and maintenance on the WinWham software system, and it's for the period February 1st, 2018 through January 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to January 31st, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $5,010.
We've been using this system since 2014.
You have to introduce yourself first.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
You have to introduce yourself.
Tom Dobek, Weights and Measures. We've been using this since 2014, this system, and we use it for everything, and the tech support has been great. And it keeps all our history of everything we do.
Any questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Deverett. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2018-618, Office of Innovation and Performance, recommending an award on requisition 41913 and enter into a contract with NH Learning Solutions Corporation, doing business as New Horizons Computer Learning Center, in the amount not to exceed $25,000. And it's for the Employee Project Management Training Services for the period September 17th, 2018 through September 16th, 2019.
Catherine Tkachik, Innovation and Performance. So this contract is for project management training. We worked with HR to identify a need, the number of the different projects going on that we right now don't offer strong project management training to our staff, and we want to be able to offer that. This will let us offer it with staff that is certified as a project management professional through the Project Management Institute. We will use the training on an as-needed basis to identify who needs to be trained and at what level to do that, so we have that ability in the contract to offer that through the next year on an as-needed basis.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilwoman Baker.
How many employees do you think you would be training?
So it'll really depend on the level of training we need. If we do more advanced training, like a certified project management professional, that will be a lower number. Versus introductory, it could be a higher number. The classes depend just on the level.
Do you have
and
a
the grouping.
range?
Let's see. So to do an intro course, it's about $2,000 for 12 people to do an intro course. But then, again, we can add more onto that at $75 per person. So we could get quite a few on an intro course. It would be quite a bit less if we do a project management certification, because that's more of a 5-day course.
If I may, many people may not understand what employee project management training is. How are these employees impacted by this training? What is it that you are training them to do?
So manage projects, it talks about how to create schedules, budgeting, identify risks, stakeholders, do communication plans, and it's all based on the project management body of knowledge, which is what's put out by the Project Management Institute, as this is the recommended best practices about how to manage projects and make sure they're completed on time, within budget, and all of those cases, and how to assess all of that when you're running a project and run a project in the best way.
And is this something that you do every year? Is it something that it's project by project? You have an end date here of September of next year.
Right, so we're going to work with HR to identify if there's employees that this would be a useful training. It's not going to be open to everybody, but somebody who's regularly working on projects and could use this. And so we have the $25,000 as a not to exceed amount. If we find that there's not as many people that need it that we're assessing, then we won't use the full contract amount. but we'll do that to try and assess those that would need it for their job. This would be a training that we can offer to them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Nani. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, BC 2018-619, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an award on requisition 43262 and enter into a contract with Voyance Language Services, LLC, in the amount not to exceed $1,000 for language interpretation services for public safety communications, and it's for the period September 17th, 2018 through September 16th, 2020.
Good morning, Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety. This contractor actually specializes in language interpretation for public safety calls, and it connects 911 callers to CCOMs to interpreters. This service is also open to the other Cuyahoga County PSAPs, and it's used by those cities and public safety answering points. However, what happens is the vendor just agrees to extend our contract price to them, but they actually are billed directly by the vendor. But there's a larger benefit to this.
Thank you. Questions?
One, if you don't mind.
Councilwoman Baker?
Just curious on the video remote interpretation, that would mean both ends would have to have the ability to have video.
That's correct.
Is that something that is highly accessible and useful?
That's actually something that we've not had to use in the past. This we find that we don't actually have to use this contract all that often. We've had it for the last 4 years, and in those 4 years, we've spent less than $500. We pay 65 cents a minute for call.
Okay, good, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, BC 2018-620, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Homeless Services, recommending an award on requisition 42507 to various providers in the total amount not to exceed $300,000 for various services in connection with the Cuyahoga County Continuum of Care Evaluation and Planning Project. And it's for the period August 1st, 2018 through July 31st, 2019 for A, Housing Innovations, LLC, for planning and evaluation services in the amount not to exceed $281,600, and B, with Elizabeth Lockley for homeless management information systems reporting and analytical tool services in the amount not to exceed $18,400.
Good morning, Shari Ware, Office of Homeless Services. The Office of Homeless Services, on behalf of the Cuyahoga County Continuum of Care, applied for this planning grant through the 2017 HUD Homeless Assistance Competition. The grant was awarded, and then we did an RFP to identify providers. And really, the purpose of the HUD funding is to expand the scope and effectiveness of services throughout the whole continuum of care, and so we will coordinate the planning and the data activities. I know the starting date is August 1st. No funds have been spent. We did an RFP to identify the providers. The thing is that when HUD makes the award, they set the start date. There's nothing we can do about that. We will make every effort to spend the entire amount in the remaining time that's available if approved.
Thank you. And also, I think you mentioned previously that not only has no money been spent, but no work has been done.
That's right. No work has been done.
Yep. Any questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker, who I preempted with my question. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2018-621, Department of Health and Human Services, Cuyahoga Job and Family Services, submitting a contract with Northeast Ohio Neighborhood Health Services, Inc., in the amount not to exceed $60,000 for Safe Sleep Educator for Men, Safe Sleep Ambassador training programs. And it's for the Cuyahoga County Fatherhood Initiative for the period January 1st, 2018 through October 31st, 2018.
Al Grimes, Director of Cuyahoga County Fatherhood Initiative under the Office of Health and Human Services. This contract allows us to continue to do the work that we've been doing through the Ohio Department of Medicaid to help reduce infant mortality in Cuyahoga County. We had a $200,000 grant through ODM to increase boot camp for new dads and do safe sleep presentations around the county. That ended in December of last year. This grant allowed us to continue to do the safe sleep presentations along with providing pack-and plays for those parents of infants who do not have a place for their children to sleep safely.
Questions? Councilwoman Baker.
So this contract is January 18, ending in end of October, and we are
Right.
now into September.
Mhm.
So how were you able to provide the services without anyone being paid?
No,
for all those months?
I had a project manager on my staff who is under Health and Human Services, and he's in my budget. So we were allowed to continue the work that he was doing under the previous grant, knowing that we were going to be reimbursed from the Ohio Department of Medicaid. And then in this particular case, the Ohio Department of Medicaid and First Year Cleveland approved the money in December of last year, knowing that the way that the program works with the Ohio Department of Medicaid, the Ohio Department of Medicaid provides the money to First Year Cleveland, who's the county's fiscal agent for infant mortality. And then in this particular case, the Ohio Department of Medicaid then released the money to NEON, and then NEON released the money to the Ohio Fatherhood Initiative. So there were 4 different agreements that had to be done before the contract was done.
If I may.
And that was all laid out in the grant.
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, if you look at the language within the contract itself, it references that the money is coming from the Ohio Department of Medicaid, which is the original source of the funding.
So the last 45 days of this contract, asking for not to exceed 60,000, are you going to need all that 60 because there's only 45 days
Yes,
left?
but because we've already submitted invoices to NEON for the first 7 months of the work.
Okay.
So we will be able to expend the entire $60,000.
So they are waiting to be paid?
Yeah, we are
approval of
waiting.
this?
We're waiting to be reimbursed from NEON
Right.
for the work that we've done. We provide them with reports through 7 months. We've made safe sleep presentations to 986 clients. Provided pack and plays to 241 that did not have a place for their children to safe sleeply. So we've continued doing the work based upon the agreement that we had with the Ohio Department of Medicaid and First Year Cleveland as our fiscal agent for the money that's coming into the county. I might add that this has been an issue with First Year Cleveland being our kind of fiscal agent for the county when it comes money come from the Office of the Ohio Department of Medicaid.
Yeah.
You know, it's been difficult on one hand to get the contracts done with another entity involved in the process. On the flip side, we've been able to receive $9 million from the Ohio Department of Medicaid to help reduce infant mortality. So on one hand, it's been difficult getting the contracts done on a timely basis, but on the other hand, you know, we've gotten a lot of money toward this particular effort.
If I may, just to clarify, for this 621 asking for 60,000 with 45 days left, if we don't approve this today, someone will not be paid?
No, we have the money. The money that's being paid is coming through our general revenue fund, and the county will be receiving money for that. It's going to be an additional $60,000 that the county is going to receive.
It's a reimbursement. Is it general fund or HHS?
HHS, I'm sorry.
That's right. Okay, any other questions? Yes, Mr. Mann.
So the county has used, I assume HHS dollars, and then we're being reimbursed for that from the state of Ohio. That's what this does.
Yes, it does.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
The HHS dollars were in the budget that was approved by council.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Dever. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2018-622, Sheriff's Department, recommending an award on requisition 42954 and enter into a contract with Educare Medical Staffing LLC in the amount not to exceed $300,000 for temporary nursing services, and it's for the period September 17th, 2018 through December 31st, 2019.
Good morning, Donna Khalil, Sheriff's Fiscal Manager. We're asking for approval on the Educare nursing contract. This is a long-term nursing contract that will run until the end of 2019, which it'll run concurrently with the Metro Health contract. So both will expire at the same time. And we will be negotiating the Metro Health contract next year. So that at that time, then we'll address how we want to handle the nursing issue.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Nani. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes.
Thank you.
And this came out of, I believe, a suggestion by Trevor to make the temporary permanent temporary so that we could draw on that as needed. Thank you for that. Okay, exemptions.
Item number BC 2018-623, Department of Public Works, recommending an alternative procurement process on requisition 43572, which will result in a master contract with various providers in the total amount not to exceed $5,900,000 for the provision of commercial building maintenance and construction supplies, auto and truck supplies, tools and equipment, warranty, service repairs, and other materials and supplies, which will be divided into major classifications, including but not limited to HVAC plumbing, electrical, carpentry, painting, tools, repairs, auto truck, construction, material, and equipment for a 2-year period to be determined.
Mike Chambers, Public Works again. We're venturing into the master contract. As you know, this will enable us to be, much more better on our budget. We'll have them in the right classifications. It's also going to enable us to respond timely. We won't have to do as many factory authorized, many mission criticals. Some of the capital projects that we undertake now, we can go ahead and be much more timely on these things. As you know, we had to do justifications in the past. The way it's going to work is we're going to do RFPs for these different categories. We're going to make price one of the components. We're going to do our best to select a minimum of 2 in each category. If by chance there's only 1, we'll evaluate them and see if they meet the criteria. But the bottom line is once we select the vendors, the way we're going to have it set up is orders less than $2,500, we're going to go right to the vendor of choice based on convenience, location, and stock availability. Once again, we'll already have a lot of this will have the price already predetermined. Any item over $2,500, we're going to conduct mini bids and see if we can't get them to even give us a little bit lower of a price than what we've already negotiated. So we'll automatically have a cap throughout the RFP. And then in addition, with the ERP coming up, we'll be able to get their catalogs, bring that right into the ERP. It'll make our purchasing a lot more. When we looked at this 4 or 5 years ago, our trades got to see the catalog, hit the button, and the parts are being ordered. This will get us much closer to that process.
Thank you. Questions? Mr. Kennedy.
Mike, is there going to be a limit on the amount that could be purchased once these vendors are chosen?
Yeah, what we're going to do now after going through this process, obviously today is the first step. Now we're going to go back. The bottom line is depending upon the category, we're going to set up a cap in each one of those. So say it's $600,000, obviously that'll go through council. The whole intent, though, is we'll have 600 here, 600 there, whatever it is. If we need to move monies around, say a project comes up or we underestimate it, we'll be able to, through the process, move monies around within those contracts.
But I mean, is there going to be a limit on what in amount? Say you set aside here, you're saying you're setting aside $5.9 million.
Yeah.
$3.5 million would be for facilities.
Correct.
Is there an amount not to exceed for a single purchase?
No, the ideal is anything over $2,500. I mean, certainly if there's an item that's not included, I mean, our goal here is we're going to try and get at least 50% of what we buy priced out. So we're going to obviously go after items that we know on a regular basis. With all the, 5 million square feet of buildings, obviously there's items outside of that we'll be able to buy. But the ideal is if it's over $2,500, we're going to do another bid within this master
I
contract.
guess my question though is if you set aside $3.5 million, what's to stop somebody from just spending $3 million on one thing?
That's not the intent of this, and I understand.
Well, I know
what
it's
you're
not the
saying, yeah.
intent, but I'm thinking what the auditors would.
This,
I mean, we can
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Public Works. I think this is not going to take the place of formal bids, if that's what you're getting at, because I know, we don't anticipate buying
no, but I think
HVAC units or anything like that. Any large purchase, I think, will still bid out through the normal OPD formal process.
But if I'm understanding Mr. Kennedy's question correctly, this is the exemption, but then if you have a proposed contract, it still comes to council or to Board of Control, does it not?
Right, once the items.
So that's the that's the check on
These
it.
are master contracts though, so they're gonna go with particular vendors so that you can purchase, and I understand it, it'd speed up the process. I'm just wondering if there's a way that we could limit an amount per purchase, so we're not bypassing.
But isn't that limit set by when it comes up to council or to the Board of Control?
Well, this is an exemption from that, right?
I know what you're asking for. I would say 86% of what we buy through the DOs, it's like $2,500 and under. Probably another 10 or 15 goes up to that 25. There are contracts, like Tom indicated. Our goal is not to replace the contracts. Our goal is eventually use this to identify more contracts, hopefully in the future. I hear what you're saying. I mean, there might be a rare pump that we need a sanitary like $50,000, but those are rarities. I would say at least 85% of what we're talking about is going to be under the 25 grand. Now, we may get into a capital project, for example, where we need to order, $100,000 worth of materials. Those are going to be, I'm going to have to come back and amend this. This is mainly for our operating accounts only. I didn't put any capital money in here.
Yeah, they're like, I mean, it's a blanket account. I mean,
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah.
It's just,
But
I
I
think
just want
we
you to know the
might
intent.
want to put some language in that stipulates there's a maximum you can spend on a one-time purchase, that's all. I think there's a way to do that. I just want to make sure we're covered for the auditors, so we're not circumventing.
Do you have a
accounting.
suggestion?
So, if I could.
Yeah.
Currently we have an issue like over at the BOE, an HVAC unit, and that's gonna run about $150,000. I don't know if that's too high of a limit, but I
We
mean,
can-
it's
why don't we-
one unit.
Offline.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like having a credit card with a $50,000 credit limit, but you can stipulate that you're not going to let a transaction over $1,000 go through without a separate approval. We just want to make sure that we're kind of
So-
tracking those things.
It's your suggestion that you talk and come back with an amendment? Or,
I'll let everybody know what the,
Do you want to put 50,000 in for now, and then we can continue that? I mean, is that palatable to do? I mean, I'll put it in right now. I'll make the change if that's
I
palatable.
mean, that's fine. I mean,
it's fine with me.
we'll come back if we need to.
I mean, this is just the exemption, right? So you're going to be presenting, presumably, is it going to be a single master contract or multiple master contracts that'll
It's going
come
to be
through?
a master contract, but 3 different types, one for sanitary, one for road and bridge, one for facilities.
Okay, but they,
In each of those is gonna have an RFP, like facilities, I think we identified 10 commodities already. So it's 10 different RFPs for different commodities, whatever release come to the board. Each of those is gonna have to come to the board for approval.
and it appears from the dollar amounts here that all 3 of those master contracts would go to council?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And
So
once
we
again,
can,
it was meant for operating. It wasn't, I know there's oddball things for capital. We'll come back and amend that separately and maybe amend the parameters if we have to.
okay, so maybe that's a conversation that can be had, between
At
now
that
and when it comes
time,
to
yeah,
council
yeah,
or when
yeah.
it comes to council.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so I'll move to approve this. Is there a second for this? Seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, item passes, and we'll follow Mr. King's suggestion. Now, please look at the consent agenda, items 624 to 631. And are there any questions on any of these items? Mr. Nani?
I have one question. On the first item for item 631, the Vizio professional subscription, $631. Council has actually tried to get Vizio, and IT indicated that There's a free version of it online, or that we've used and seems to work. It's called Smart Draw. Is there a reason why they need this and
Well,
they can't use the free version?
Janelle Green, Department of IT, we've tried to push people towards the Smart Draw, but Visio has a lot of capabilities to work with Excel and to import data and to put it into tables. So again, we try to push people towards the free solution or lower cost solutions, not free.
Right.
But people are just adamant that they need it, and they have to go through actually explaining to Mike Young as far as why they need to use it. So it's very vetted
So
before
they
it
went
even.
through the process.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Councilwoman Baker.
Just to reiterate a question I had prior, and I know it's a small amount of money, but just curious. We have the Department of Information Technology, Department of Development, and we have Health and Human Services, all within the same ask for $631.26.
Is it still the 631? I'm sorry.
It's the 431.92.
Same item.
First one under 631.
Yeah.
I think. Is there, I mean, how do we know what this is paying for by the description that is given to us? I have an answer back that it's a Skill Up program, but we would never know that by the description here.
Right. When we get the request, we get specifically what the type of item they want, whether it's a license or it's an item. Usually, the department has a discretion on what they're going to use and how they're going to use it for their own purposes. Typically, with us, we're procuring the item. We're not going and delving into the business need per se as far as how they're going to use it. The department can supply that information. We're just as essentially a pass-through for this particular item.
It would be easier if under description, that could at least be, I mean, that's what the description block is there for.
Sure.
If we could perhaps put that these are being used for whatever purpose it's being
Right.
used for, especially when you have 3 different departments here.
Right. So what we do typically, if we're procuring an item, what we do is we send over, it's basically we exported the questions that are in OnBase out into a Word doc, and we have the departments fill out those questions directly, and then we take those answers and put it into the system. Okay. So we just went by what the department told us. So we can definitely ask for those departments to provide more information as far as how they're going to be using it, and moving forward for any other future purchases.
Would the, if I may, would the ERP system be an assistance in this or not?
It's still up to the user to input in the information. So it's the user, the end user, to provide that information and put it into the system.
And finally, is all of the Skill Up going to be paid through the HHS levy?
That I do not know. We just got this information. This is Daniel Basta from HHS.
Morning, Daniel Basta from Health and Human Services. All the Skill Up program is funded by the HHS levy. So
it is
100%. Yeah, everything that's through there, and some of it gets reimbursed from federal monies as well, back to the HHS levy.
All right, good, thanks.
But that's why it's helpful to include that additional information. So when somebody sees Department of Development and HHS levy paying for it, it's clarified that it's because it's the Skill Up program.
Right, definitely. We can get that information from the charging departments.
Be helpful, thanks.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve the items on the consent agenda, 624 to 631. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Dever. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda items are approved. Is there any other business?
No other business at this time.
Okay. Any public comment?
And no public comment.
I move to adjourn. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Nani. All those in favor, please say aye. We are adjourned.
So all that Skill Up is paid out of